Well, if you think backing into a parking spot is tough, you got to try it with a boat. Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Garsten, and welcome to episode 141 of Tales from the Beat, where we look at news and PR from both sides of I guess it'd be the break wall this time around. And along with me on our voyage, yeah, we'll push this as far as we can, is Lee Gordon, who is the Chief Communications and Government Affairs Officer at Brunswick Corporation, which is what, about the biggest marine recreation company, what, in the country, in the world?
In the world, in the world.
In the world. It's great to see you, Lee. Thanks a lot for coming on, and you actually epitomize the theme of the podcast because you've worked on both sides of what we often call the scrimmage line. So before we get into it and explain to the folks why that little tease at the beginning has to do with what we're supposed to be talking about, a little bit of background on your career.
Ed, and Red, I really appreciate you having us on today. I did what I wanted to do growing up. I played baseball and I loved baseball, but I was always fascinated by the local news. And I grew up in Chicago, where I recently moved back to, and
Ah,
I just used to idolize the local sportscasters. And so when I'd go to a Cubs
mm,
game, I wasn't looking for Bill Buckner or Ernie Banks coming out of the. I was looking for Mark Giangreco at Channel 7, and those guys.
yeah.
These were the guys that just I was so fascinated with, and had the great fortune of interning for him, and then spent 15
Mm,
years playing TV, as you know,
yeah.
doing the Ron Burgundy thing through
Oh, yeah.
small markets and bigger markets, did ESPN radio, and after about
Mm,
20 years of just doing that, I decided to change over to corporate communications and joined Brunswick about 13 years ago. So it's been a
mm,
wonderful transition. I would say it's the longest job I ever had because, as you
yeah.
know, from being in the world, you jump from market to market to
For
market.
sure.
But 13 years later, here we are. So it's been a great ride. But yeah, really looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, oh that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think about, my first TV job was doing the weekend weather in Tucson, Arizona, where there isn't any weather. So
I mean, I
it
was
was
Billings, Montana. I spent 2.5 years doing sports in Montana, so I
it's
covered every rodeo, rookie ball for the Cincinnati Reds, you name it. I even learned how to
yeah.
snowboard. Not well, but tried.
Yeah, that's no, local TV is awesome. I didn't work in it too long out in K-Gun, Channel 9 in Tucson, but it was fun. I mean, that's where you learn, right? That's where you learn and you make your mistakes and you become better and then you move on to the next thing. So,
I would say some of the best memories I've ever had and will ever
yeah.
have are from those moments because you don't. I joke with my kids. I said, we were choosing between lunch or dinner, not lunch and dinner,
Yeah,
lunch or
right.
dinner. You couldn't afford both. And you'd always try to
No,
cover an event that had free food because that was your
right.
meal for the day. But
You bet.
you keep in touch with some of those same people from those years past. And every time you get together, you just have the most fond memories of those days.
Absolutely. I ate a lot of ramen back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Whether we wanted to or not.
Right. Yeah. So let's dive into it. The whole backing in thing. You had actually come to me about a story for Brunswick for me to write for Forbes.com, and I cover mostly auto, so it was a little out of my beat, but I'm intrigued by it because I love the water. Have been on the water. I have a relative with a sailboat, and I've watched him try to back this 40-foot thing into the slip. And I know if I was going to try it, I'd be ping-ponging back and forth between the ducks. Lee, let's talk about the Brunswick product, and then we're going to dive into really in this day and age, how do you pitch a story like that? So it's called, right, AutoCaptain.
It is. So Brunswick, we have around 60 or so brands under our portfolio. And as you mentioned, we're the largest recreational boating technology company in the world. And one of those brands is Simrad, which is iconic on recreational boats for the screens. You see Simrad all over the place. You're seeing them a lot more now, even in USVs and drone boats, which we can get into. But one of the biggest pain points in all of boating is docking a boat.
Mm,
And I always say, my wife and I don't argue much until I'm
yeah.
docking a boat. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, the music just goes up. She's
Mhm.
mad at me. The kids are loud. They're standing up and jumping. And now you've got 30 people watching you dock a boat. And it is
Right.
not easy.
No.
And so our CEO came from an automotive background. We have quite a few people from an automotive background. And we have a strategy called ACES, which is automotive's version of ADAS.
Yeah.
It's autonomy, connectivity, electrification, and shared access, which is our
Hmm.
freedom club.
Yes.
But that autonomy piece, the difference between boating and the car is we all want to just get in a Waymo or a car and have us go from A to B. Well,
Yeah.
cars also have brakes and they have turn lanes and there's different, there's gravity.
Yeah.
In a boat, you have none of that. There are no brakes. There's no turn lanes. There's
Right.
wind. There's wake. There's current. But there's also something beautiful about driving a boat, and we don't want to take that away from the boater and the captain of the boat. Having
Right.
said that, docking a boat, if you told me that all I had to do was push a button and the boat would dock itself,
Yeah.
where do I sign up for that? And
Yeah.
so last October we launched AutoCaptain. We've had various forms of it. You can dock a boat with joystick, but you're still, it's almost like playing a video game. You're still kind of moving it, and you still need a person to do it. But
Sure.
this detects using cameras and using AI on the side of the boat. It detects the slip. It knows exactly where it is. It knows if there's a log or a duck or even a person in the water, and
Right.
it'll stop it, move it sideways, move it forward, and it'll find that slip. And you, right on your SimRide screen, you push the button. That's the one I want, and
I
it'll
see.
go right into it. So it's, I don't like to use the word game changer because that's such an overused pun, but it's
Yeah.
about as close to that as you can get.
Sure. So is it something that's factory built in or something you can add on as an aftermarket feature? How does that work?
Right now, we're doing it as a factory build-in because you want to make sure you install those cameras at the very beginning. Very similar to joystick piloting. You can
Mhm.
do it in the aftermarket, but there's a chance the experience is not going to be exactly the same. And so what we want to make sure is those who have it have the perfect experience. It's one of those you add on Auto Captain because you want to take that one more thing out of it. You want to be able to enjoy the
Yeah.
water.
Sure.
At the end of the day, that plus some of the other technologies are really about safety. It's really about making sure you're as safe as you possibly can be. You've got a lot of different
Yeah.
things to worry about and think about when you're a
Yeah.
captain. But if you
Yes.
don't have to worry about docking a boat, boy, that's a
Yeah.
huge weight
Oh
off your
yeah.
shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, it would be. It would be for anyone having seen people have difficulty doing it. Even the people that are good at it, it still looks hard. But so all right, so let's get into then. You've got this story. It's an intriguing story, and obviously a big development in recreational marine. Um, how do you go about in this day and age? I mean, it's different from what's the old, you put out a press release, mass email it to reporters, and then pray that somebody picks it up. In your particular sector in marine recreation, I mean, what's your best strategy in this day and age with the technology that we have in trying to place a story like this?
The biggest advantage we have in our industry is getting on the product. We host a media event every year, and this is how we are connected in New York City. And the reason we do it in New York is because, it's the bulk of the media we want to reach lives in New York. And
Yes.
there's nothing like getting on the product and seeing it for yourself. We exhibit at CES every year, which has been fantastic for us. And it's
Yeah.
great to have boats and engines and technology in a convention center, but you're in a convention center. You don't necessarily get the full experience of it.
Oh.
So what I try to do you try to reach out to automotive reporters like yourselves and others who
Mhm.
truly understand, okay, yeah, sure, a car can dock itself, that's old news. But what's the connection point between boating and automotive? And with
Mm.
all those other variables about it, you get somebody on that boat, and that's usually that aha moment. It's just saying, okay, from a consumer standpoint, our car, I'm not going to roll down my windows anymore. And every car has backup cameras and every car
Yeah.
has all that tech. I can control my house with my phone and everything I can do on my phone. But if you get
Yeah.
on a boat and it's this analog rotary phone system, we're going to lose everybody for it. And so
Sure.
if we can make that from a PR side of things, you make that connection between the tech on the car, the tech in your home, the tech even in an airplane.
Yeah.
Now you almost have to be more sophisticated on the water because you're dealing with
Right.
elements that you don't necessarily have to deal with
Sure.
on the road. And you don't always get that hit, but you then start to get people going, okay, I see it. I see the connection point there. Let me
Yeah.
get on the water. Let me try it. And then once they do, especially if you get a nice, beautiful 75-degree day, you've got them
Yeah.
hooked. No pun intended.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, this is very intriguing to me because um, it's not natural. Normally, I think in discussions I've seen in the past, say, "Well, we should find out, boating magazines and boating reporters and that, and sort of stick to that." I think that's quite a great and fascinating leap to look at automotive reporters. How successful have you been to get auto reporters to actually sort of see that symbiosis that works for that story?
Relatively successful. And I do think that CES plays a big role in it because we are on a huge stage there where you've got reporters from not just the automotive world, but from technology, the fast companies and the Wired and journalists and magazines that wouldn't necessarily think about Brunswick because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, Brunswick Corporation doesn't sell anything. It's our
Right.
60 brands that we own that
Hmm.
sell.
Yeah.
And, in years past, people would come up to us at CES and go, "Oh, the bowling company. Oh, the billiards company." And
Right.
yes, we were that. We were that for many, many, many years.
Yes.
But we sold those businesses over a decade ago. And so we're a pure play marine company. It is a
Okay.
lot of work by the communications team to really try to get that story going. But
Yeah.
CES and other avenues like that really help. We just won a Fast Company Most Innovative Company Award for the first time ever. That
Wow.
kind of stage helps us as well, kind of legitimize ourselves a bit more and saying, okay, yes, we were
Hmm.
those companies many, many years ago. Yes, we owned Life Fitness and Hammer Strength and McGregor Golf
Yes.
Clubs and all these different kind of brands. But
Yeah.
today we are more than just boats, more than just engines. It is truly the technology that makes us stand out. So it's been an effort by everybody to try to get that story driven. But
Sure.
once you get one or two, as you know, it kind of get
Yeah.
that mushroom effect.
Absolutely. And yeah, CES, I mean, for us, where I've been on the auto beat now for, I don't know, 30 years or so, where the auto shows used to be the thing. And
Yeah.
now all the real news is being made at CES because cars basically are computers on wheels. And I imagine that marine craft are becoming like that as well. Is that is that accurate that they're becoming so computerized like vehicles are that they've got more in common with cars than we think?
They have a lot more. You think about some of the technology that we show. It's not just the AutoCaptain, but last year we showed a Lund fishing boat. So that's extremely popular aluminum fishing boat. But
Hmm.
there's forward-facing sonar. And when you think about those Bassmaster Classic anglers,
Yeah.
you can find a fish so fast, and that is so important for that.
Hmm.
It's not. Somebody compared it to the days of the Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, where the ball seems so big, and it's
Hmm.
not like that, but the technology is getting so much better. And for a product like an Auto Captain, it's on a 40-foot boat today, but in 10 years from now, 5 years from now,
Right.
it'll be much more commercialized where it can be in a smaller boat. We
Yes.
were just talking before this. I just returned from an event with the Consumer Technology Association where I'm on their executive board, and they are the ones that put on CES.
Okay.
And Waymo was there, and they were talking about their cars and the
Mm.
technology that are on their cars 20 years from now. They expect it to be on every motorized
Right.
vehicle, no matter
Yeah.
what it is. And so that's when we build or we create something from a technology perspective, it
Sure.
usually does start in that premium side of the business. But the goal is always how do you bring that down to the entire portfolio? So you're right, from a CES perspective, there are a lot of people that go and they'll say, why is a boat at CES? You walk them through it and they go,
Yeah.
why wouldn't a boat be at CES? So
Right.
that's been kind of that aha moment. And then also having automotive companies or technology companies coming up to us and saying, we had no
Yes.
idea you made this lithium ion battery or
Yeah.
something like that. Can we partner together on some project? And that's generated a lot of partnerships just by
Sure.
just by showing up, really.
Yeah, I think people forget people of a certain age, I happen to be one of them, remember when auto companies actually produced outboard motors and things like
Yeah.
that years and years ago. They were involved in marine. So let's then, okay, so you've got CES, and that's a great platform f for the product. But as you know, journalism in general, it's tough right now. Places are laying off journalists. Finding dedicated beat reporters now is tough. The beats are so thinned out by budgets and just preferences and by technology. So, Lee, I'm wondering what you're finding as far as actually identifying an, I hate to use the word enough, but enough reporters and the right reporters uh, to target your story pitches because there's so much fewer of us, frankly, out there now.
You're right, and that's one of the main reasons that I left the TV business. You could see over the
Sure.
mountain of what was happening. You could
Yeah.
see, how social media was you didn't have to be right anymore.
Yeah.
I so many people used to say, and I'm sure to you, they would say, "I went to bed with you tonight. I watched you, and then I went to sleep
Right.
right after." Hopefully, I didn't put
Hmm.
them to sleep,
Yeah.
but they were the last thing that they did before you went to sleep,
Right.
and you watched the local news to get the news.
Hmm.
Today, there has got to be a major breaking news story at
Hmm.
10:59 p.m. for it to
Yes.
be the lead story at 11 o'clock for you not to know it. I mean, our
True.
president has his own social media
Right.
channel,
Yeah.
which we all follow because that's where he breaks his own news. And
Hmm.
so you get it from so many different levels. And you're right,
Yeah.
it has changed so much that you almost have to adopt the ESPN model in corporate communications, which is you create your own story, you report on your own story, and then everybody else reports on the story that you created
Yeah.
and then reported on. And
Yes.
from a corporate comms perspective, we almost have to do that ourselves. You can't rely on the third party, the editorial media, to break your story. Or,
Right.
my least favorite word in the world is the embargo. It's
Hmm.
only you're only as good as the person you trust on the other end of it. You
Yes.
have to break your own news in a way, and then hope it you can get enough fire and kerosene on it to get people interested. I think we're fortunate enough that it's not just the technology story. We're a public company, so we've got the financial press who will always be interested in us in
Yes.
a lot of different ways. We're able to weave in our tech story, on the CNBCs and the Bloombergs and the
Sure.
Barrons and BBCs as well, but at the same time, really try to get after that tech story. But it really is upon us, and
Yeah.
especially, bring in the AI of it all,
Yes.
as you know, the earned media and the owned media really kind of seeding those large language models. We've got to be relevant 24/7, and you
Excellent.
can't fully rely on earned media anymore because you're right. The newsrooms are being stripped out. My friends who are in the
Yes.
media are calling all the time asking if they can come work in corporate communications. I'm like, please, please, please stay where you are. I
Yeah.
still need, some friends in the media. But
Yeah.
it is definitely changing. But I think that is where corporate comms professionals have got to have a newsroom mentality internally.
Sure, sure. I mean, it's so great that you said that because the last couple of episodes, we've been talking to people about uh, the reliance on earned media, basically getting people to carry the water for you, free coverage, earned media, and it seems like there's less of a chance of landing earned media now. Is that your experience too? Is that there's just fewer opportunities, or are we thinking too narrowly and saying, well, companies say, I want to be in the Times, I want to be in the Wall Street, I want to be on the Today Show, Good Morning America. Are we thinking too narrow now? When in terms of earned media, how much do we need to then broaden the scope of where you want to land that story?
You have to. You're completely right because there was a day when, and it wasn't that long ago, when if
Yeah.
you got on the Today Show, boy, I mean, you're a made man.
Oh
You
yeah.
just, you sit back
Sure.
and you toast of how great that was. But
Yeah.
that's a Tuesday now. It's like
Hmm.
that's great. What are you going to do for me tomorrow? Because
Right.
yeah, you think, I mean, here I live in Chicago and we've got, we're a multi-paper city, but that is so rare to have the Chicago Tribune, the Sun-Times, and the Daily Herald. But,
Hmm.
I don't know anybody that gets home delivery of any of those papers anymore either. My
Yeah.
parents were the last of
Yeah.
those who just, the newspaper came and you relied on it. And I used to look at those box scores every day
Hmm.
because I, couldn't watch the Cubs on the West Coast because I had to go to sleep and I
Yeah.
couldn't see them play the Dodgers. And I was
Right.
fascinated by that. But I mean, looking for my phone, everything I need in my whole life
Right.
is right here anymore.
Exactly.
So I think the earned media piece of it is a small piece of that puzzle, but say you get that hit, say you write the story on Forbes,
Yeah.
what we do with it internally is
Yeah.
extremely important. I've got to make sure that now
Sure.
I'm using it in our internal newsletters. I'm sending it to our members of Congress who will
Yes.
put it in their newsletters. Hey, this company in my district was just
Hmm.
featured in Forbes for this technology that is made
Right.
in the United States. That's one piece of it. The posting it on social media is a piece of it. Giving it to our employees to post on their social media is a piece of it.
Right.
that one story can't just die on the vine, so to speak. It's what are the 10 tentacles
Yeah.
beyond it that makes it continue to grow? Because if not,
Yeah.
the news cycles, more than anybody, it
Yeah.
changes every 10 minutes,
Oh,
if not 3 minutes.
absolutely. I mean, I spent 20 years at CNN where there wasn't any news cycle.
Right.
There was no deadline. The deadline was now. You got the
Yeah.
story, just put it on now. And that that was an interesting way to work. It was a fabulous way to work, actually. It was a wonderful time. But you had mentioned AI a couple of times, and I wanted to get to that because Lee, how much different has it made just pure discovery of the story? Okay, you've landed the story somewhere, and maybe you've put out your own media that you've generated within the company. How has the advent of AI and the way of searching changed the way your story is discovered?
And we're all learning on the fly. It's funny. I was just at this conference, and there was a guy from Microsoft, and he's speaking, and we're taking notes as fast as we can. And he's like, "You
Yeah.
guys, we don't know any more than you do. We just spend more money than you do." He's like, "Let's just start there."
Right.
Where it's made an impact, I would say, on the communications team is it's saved us a lot of time on things that I didn't even think
Really?
about. For
Okay.
example, we're doing a media event in New York, so you put in the Copilot or Claude, who are the top 10 automotive reporters that write about cars but may have surfing or boating on their social media pages and
Yes.
actually live in New York, and give me their email addresses, and boom, it's right there.
Wow.
You can use some of those platforms, but a lot of it was just manually looking for these people and trying to find that within seconds, it's right here. I think from an analytics perspective, it's helped immensely.
Mm.
How do we continue to grow our place in the world and our influence within the boardroom?
Yeah.
I think where it's helped a lot is in press release creation. Somebody once said from a communication standpoint, AI is a great intern. It's going to get you 70 or 80% of
Yeah.
the way. You still have to proof it. You still
Right.
have to finish it, but it at least will get you started. And that is it's been an incredible asset in that sense. Now it's also, if you rely too much on it, you start to second guess yourself. And I'm seeing a lot of that as well
Mm.
because you
Right.
could say, can you, I write or we write a CEO letter. So
Okay.
our CEO does, every Monday, he does a CEO letter internally. So we do 51 of these per year, take the
Mm.
Monday before Christmas off. And
Yeah.
I've never used it because he has a very specific voice. But from
Mhm.
now on, every now and then, from a national story, you proof it and you check it and you proof it.
Yes.
But if you copy and paste it into the Copilot, it'll change
Mm.
it 17 different times.
Yes.
So you have to be very aware of what it is saying. I've seen some, certainly the McKinseys and those folks, get in some trouble because, it hallucinated on them and something happened.
Oh, yeah.
But it is definitely a great intern. I certainly hope, and I don't see a world where it's going to start replacing all of us. I would hate to be
Right.
reading the local newspaper or
Yeah.
watching news and it was an AI bot. That would just be, I don't know that that's what we need. But certainly to help where we can now think more strategically, I could start to get a little higher, 30, 40,000 feet in the air and really think about what
Okay.
do we need to be doing for the
Yeah.
next 2 years versus
Sure.
being in the weeds on everything.
Yeah.
That's where I see it's being the most impactful so far.
So how much, this is it's interesting because we lived in with Google and search engine optimization, SEO, and now it's all about uh, AI search and being found when someone queries whatever AI tool they're using. Um, and I was talking to somebody, and they said that when they write their releases now, they don't write the headline necessarily the same way. It's not the headline, but they try to write it in a way that it answers a question that somebody's asking on AI. And actually, now when we write our headlines on our Forbes stories, which are all web stories, we have to think of that too. We can't do the cute wordplay anymore because it doesn't recognize it. It's too out there. So Lee, I mean, how much is that factoring into even the way you create the materials that you're sending out and hope that it gets found?
Very much so. We use a platform where we send our press releases out, and all of them, I believe, have this now, which is in kind of an AI generator. So you put your press
Yeah.
release in there, and they
Hmm.
tell you, is it compatible for AI? And here are the different suggestions. In a
Yeah.
press release, we would write the headline and then the release.
Hmm.
And now it's, everybody focuses on that subheading. Don't miss out on the subheading.
Yeah.
Our company for many years spent so much time worrying about the boilerplate. And I was like, I'm here to tell you that I used to get 100 press releases a year, and never once in 20 years did I use somebody's boilerplate.
Right.
So, it was like you were wasting their time. Today,
Yeah.
though, it matters because you put the right words in there in the right ways. It almost becomes part of the release. And yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned the SEO, it's now the GEO, and that's a
Yeah.
huge part of it. So, there was a day where I said, I want to average at least one press release a day. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, a week
A
for
week.
the year. So if we send
Yeah.
out 52 press releases in a year, we were doing really well.
Wow.
That's, you know, I mean that's not even scratching the surface anymore.
Sure.
It's now in a place where what can we every day think, is there a release we can send out? Is there something we can get out there that we post on our website, our brand's websites,
Right.
even in the trades? The trades for many years have been like, well, it's just the trades. We're talking to the same people all the time.
Right.
We need to really expand our horizons. Well, the trades they feed into the large language models too.
Right.
And so there's nobody that you can ignore anymore.
Sure.
Everybody is important in that way. But I do think it is changing the way, and you said this, the way that we all find things. My daughter is 17, my son is 14.
Yeah.
I mentioned something about Googling. They go, what? They're like, no, I'm just going to go on TikTok. Or I'm going
Yeah.
to go on Claude. They don't Google anything anymore. So everything they find is something that Gemini or Claude
Right.
or Copilot has told them, or my daughter picked her car based off of a TikTok review. I'm
Wow.
like, this is changing my
It's
whole
crazy.
mindset on everything right now.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, people say to me, because I'm actually semi-retired, and so I'm an old, you can call me an old guy, I don't care. But sometimes you get to a point where you go, oh, what is all this stuff going on? It's not like the old days. But to me, and I don't know how you feel about it, I don't mind this at all. I think it's fascinating. I think the game changes. You have to just change with it. The rules and the technology changes, and if you learn how to use it effectively, you're going to be successful. So I'm curious then, how do you look at it? Has it been like, oh man, this stuff's happening now, I got to deal with it, or do you say, cool, now I have new tools I can use to be successful?
I think it's more the latter. At
Yeah,
first, I probably, like everybody, was,
yeah,
do I really have to? Like, can I just go the rest of my career and not really
yeah,
deal with it, and then it'll be somebody
right,
else's problem in my retirement?
right.
That's obviously not happening.
No,
It is everywhere because it's not just in the workplace too. We
mhm,
go on vacation, and I'm like, I don't have
yeah,
time to research where we need to go or where we need to
right,
stay, or give me the top 5 restaurants in a 3-minute walk from this hotel that Claude has already told me to stay at.
yeah,
It's changing everything that we do. We had somebody watch our dogs for a couple of days while we were gone and go,
wow,
here's what they do. And it printed out an
wow,
entire calendar of events for the
wow,
dog sitter to help. And
yeah,
it was like, here you go.
yeah,
It's done. I mean, it is becoming, I don't want to say it's becoming a crutch
yeah,
because I'm sure it is for some, but I'm like you, I'm just let me learn more about it because
yeah,
it's going to be I mean, never in our lives has a machine been smarter than humans. And
no,
so if that's the case and that's what's going to happen,
sure,
instead of fighting it, the only
yeah,
way I'm going to be able to engage with my kids, is to understand at the level that they're at, which is so
yeah,
far ahead of where I was at their age. I've got to
absolutely.
be and learn and be on top of this. And from a business perspective, as we think about supply chain and IT transformation and
Mhm.
marketing and comms, and everybody's doing it. So we will be so far left behind if we don't. So it's kind of
Absolutely.
one of those things you can fight
Yeah.
it all you want, but it is here and it is roaring fast.
It sure is. It's great to have tools. Makes our jobs easier and more interesting. Lee Gordon, thank you so much for being on this episode of Tales from the Beat. Folks, Lee Gordon, the Chief Communications and Government Affairs Officer at Brunswick Corporation. What a great discussion. I'll look forward to hearing more of what's going on at Brunswick, and you can pitch me anytime. I'm open to all sorts of things uh,
Thank you,
because
Ed.
because Forbes lets me write what I want to write about. So, and I love the water. I love marine. I'm a kayaker myself, but that's
We got to get
that's
you on
easy.
the water. I'm telling
Yeah,
you,
that's
we're
easy to
fast.
back into the beach. Well, thanks a lot, Lee. Thanks so much. And thank all of you for checking out this episode of Tales from the Beat. I'm Ed Garsten. I hope you'll share, comment, subscribe to the podcast. I'll be back very soon with more tales. Thanks a lot. Take care.